whole head was in its mouth.
And just literally just trying to break my skull.
He was eating me.
It's everyone's worst nightmare, being eaten alive by a wild animal. In this episode, 3 terrifying stories of people who've been savaged by bears. What's it like to become human prey? In the summer of 2005, Johan Otter tried to save his daughter from the jaws of an angry grizzly while hiking in Montana.
I really felt like I was trying to rip my head off. And I remember thinking, okay, one more bite and I'm done.
Glacier National Park, one of America's last great wilderness areas. It's home to the nation's most feared predator, the grizzly bear. Every year, grizzlies claim the lives of people who get too close. Johan Otter and his daughter Jenna are here for a hiking vacation.
This one right here.
Right here?
Yep. See, I got
to celebrate her graduation.
We're good to go.
All right.
And it's kind of cool that your daughter still wants to go on a senior trip, you know, and with Dad to go into the mountains.
But today's ambitious hike will test them in more ways than they can possibly imagine. Survival in this wilderness is brutal. This female grizzly is dangerous. She has 2 cubs and will attack anything that comes near them. Dr. Barry Gilbert knows just how deadly these bears can be. He himself was badly mauled by a grizzly.
Grizzly bears have the smallest young of any of the mammals. They can weigh 2 or 3 pounds when they're young, so they're really vulnerable. This is what has caused the female to evolve into being suicidally aggressive. She lays out her all for those cubs.
It's too early for other hikers to be on the trail.
I sort of had this underlying nervousness. In the morning and the evening hours are the prime feeding times for animals, so that's when they're going to be out and about a lot more.
Oh, I gotta take a video of this.
This is beautiful.
Wow.
But Dad, we've got a long way to go. Let's keep going.
But Johan and Jenna are seasoned hikers.
The precaution I knew when hiking was just to make noise.
We knew to not be too quiet, although we didn't know how loud to actually be. We talked continuously during that time, and we made sure we looked around as much as possible.
Mornings, you can run to work and then take a shower.
So your mom wanted me to have a talk with you about keeping to your studies.
They also carry a can of bear spray. This is their only defense against a predator attack.
If I don't,
We didn't have it on our belt, it was just in the backpack. You know, really thinking that you're not going to be able to have to use that. It's not going to happen to you.
They climb higher and further away from human habitation. If anything should happen to them, Johan and Jenna are on their own. Grizzlies normally steer clear of people. They can pick up a scent from over 2 miles away. But the wind is blowing down the mountain, away from the bear.
And that would just negate the bear's best warning system, which is its nose, its sense of smell. And that's almost a perfect storm scenario.
The grizzly is now on a deadly collision course.
A surprised bear is an angry bear, and an angry bear is an aggressive bear and a dangerous bear.
so do you honestly think that you're going to be able to keep up with, practice and dance? Look at this.
High above the lake, the view is spectacular. Johan and Jenna fall silent, a mistake that could cost their lives.
There's a bend in the trail, so you can't see around it, but you don't expect anything to be around it, which I guess is a bad assumption to make. In front of me is a mother grizzly bear, followed by 2 cubs right behind her. I thought, like, I'm going to die.
If you turn and run, you've immediately put a hamburger sign across your back.
To save his daughter, Johan puts his own life on the line.
And it's something instinctual. It's not something you actually think about. It basically went into my thigh.
The bear bites deep into Johan's leg, again and again, right down to the bone.
It wasn't like it was holding on to my leg and just kind of being in there. No, it was kind of in-out type of thing.
If he wants to live, Johan has to break loose. But there's only one way out, down.
I decided to jump off the trail. It was about 20, 25 feet into some bushes. My eye was already bleeding or something like that at that point, so something must have gotten into my face. Because the animal went at me like this, so it must have been one of the claws.
Then I see the can of bear spray that my dad had in the side pocket of his backpack. I pick up the can, but I didn't know how to work the can. And you can't really stop and read instructions at that point.
Out of time and options, Jenna leaps into the unknown. Johan has no idea his daughter has jumped.
Jenna, down here!
And I see the bear cocks its head back again, looks down at me.
By being active, she might have interpreted that he was doing a circle around to get at the cubs.
Hell-bent on finishing them off, the bear charges down the mountain.
Never felt or seen anything as strong and fast in my life. It's one big piece of muscle. It was lifting me up nearly out of the bushes.
Bears will sometimes try to flip people over to get at their face when they're going after people.
It was like, I need to keep this animal with me, you know, away from Jenna, basically. Next thing I remember, falling around a good steep fall, I'd say 30 feet or something.
Johan's luck holds. He's cheated death once more. But by chance, Johan has landed on the same ledge as Jenna.
And then when I landed down, and here's that bear, it's still, you know, with me.
Trying to protect his daughter, Johan has brought the angry grizzly straight to her. Now the bear moves in for the kill. Johan Otter and his daughter Jenna have escaped a savage grizzly by throwing themselves off a mountain. Hot on their trail, the bear is going in for the kill.
The animal just wants to get rid of you, to neutralize you, to make you no threat to her cubs.
Jenna tries to hide, But Johan faces the predator head on.
But I just wanted to make sure it was, away from Jenna.
Johan grabs for the nearest weapon, but it turns to dust.
And I still remember those two eyes, amber brown, looking straight into my eyes. No feelings.
Looking bears straight in the eye and continuing to look at them is generally aggressive.
And it really started chomping down on my arm. It was just ripping it apart.
We don't have the physical structure to stand up to even a friendly wrestling match with a bear, let alone when they're ticked off and a mom is feeling defensive about her cubs.
You have this helpless feeling of, I can't do anything, but you want to help, but you can't do anything.
The bear goes for the killer bite to his head.
It's going after a person just like it would another bear. They're aiming for the mouth and the face because they're trying to disable their opponent's weapons. That's their teeth, that's their jaws.
The grizzly's canines are about 2 inches long, made for gripping and tearing. The molars are flat for crushing and grinding.
It really felt like it was trying to rip my head up. And the tooth really went into my skull. I could feel this bone cracking. And I remember thinking, okay, one more bite and I'm done. And then I looked down and I'm like, oh, one more fall and I'm dead. But I also knew that if I would stay there, I would be dead.
Determined not to die, Johan breaks free and leaps into the void once again. A small rocky ledge saves him from certain death, 1,400 feet below.
And then I looked up, and the bear kind of was looking over the ledge, basically. I couldn't get to me. It was too steep, basically.
But the grizzly isn't done yet. It can still smell human flesh.
It was just fear of being found, which you know is inevitable. I heard the bear breathing, and it's sort of like that stomach churning, like, oh no, kind of feeling. And I must have screamed.
Jenna!
Worst sound in the world. You've tried to keep this animal with you as long as possible to keep it away from your daughter, and still.
Jenna is trapped.
Its lower jaw was the one that ripped open my mouth, and the upper one was the one that grabbed on my neck. And my whole head was in its mouth. Okay, I'm dead. Let's get it over with.
This could be the end of the line for Jenna. Johan Otter has escaped a savage grizzly attack by jumping off a mountain. The bear has now turned on his 18-year-old daughter.
Jenna!
Face to face with death, Jenna takes a huge gamble.
I just tried to be as still as possible so that it would think that I was dead.
The playing dead routine works if you can quit moving and if you can remain as silent as possible. That tells the bear, okay, this person is no longer a threat. You can leave.
Jenna keeps completely still and silent. Johan has no idea what is happening.
I don't hear anything anymore. I mean, it could mean one or two things. One, the animal left my daughter alone, or two, she's dead.
Johan doesn't dare make a sound. If the bear has gone, any noise might bring it back. He waits 2 agonizing minutes, then decides to take a chance.
Jenna?
Dad?
That's probably the best feeling. I'm sorry. It's still get a little emotional.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Her voice was very strong, sounded very healthy.
Oh, I think I'm banged up pretty bad.
And it was going for my head, and then all I feel was just bone, 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 bone. Like, okay, I'm not gonna feel anymore. That's not good.
It's still too early for many hikers to be this far up the trail. Johan uses his nylon jacket to protect his exposed scalp. He needs urgent medical attention. Adrenaline triggered by the attack is draining away. He is going into shock.
I was getting a little woozy. I was just shaking. I was so cold.
Johan and Jenna's cries are finally heard by other hikers. 2 hours later, they're airlifted to the hospital. Johan's spine and neck are broken. His scalp needs a skin graft. He has 3 broken ribs, a broken nose, and a punctured eye. It takes 9 operations and many months for Johan to recover. Jenna also requires surgery and begins university wrapped in bandages.
Yeah, you kind of feel guilty in a way, you know, because you've taken your daughter into a dangerous area. Shouldn't have done that. That's when you get a little emotional, like, you know, shoot, I'm doing this to all these people. But I guess folks didn't care. They were happy I was still alive. So.
After the attack, experts agree the bear was acting naturally, trying to defend her cubs. They thought she posed no further danger to people, so she was not put down. For thousands of years, bears were America's supreme predators. From Alaska to Mexico, they were top of the food chain. Native Americans were in awe of their ferocious temper and huge strength. Some tribes worshiped bears. They wore their skin and claws as symbols of power. But killing a bear meant hunting in groups. It increased the chance of coming back alive. European settlers, however, were far less cautious. They saw bears as a dangerous pest that preyed on their livestock. Convinced their guns would protect them, they set out to kill as many as possible.
And this was the age of the homesteader. And for those people, if they lost a cow, if they lost a couple sheep, you know, it was a huge cost for them.
In the mid-1800s, prospectors pushed deeper into bear country, looking for gold. Scavenging bears soon learned that where there were people, there were food scraps. Very occasionally, bears also developed a taste for human flesh. Today, there are still freak incidents when bears see humans as prey. In the summer of 1997, Kelly McConnell's life was shattered when a black bear went on one of North America's most horrific bear rampages.
It was just trying to eat me.
Liard River Hot Springs, British Columbia, a popular place to relax and unwind. It's home to many black bears who feed on food scraps that people leave behind. In rare cases, they can take that terrible next step.
It's bears that have been both habituated to people and then food conditioned that have injured or preyed on people.
Like other bears in the park, this male feeds on human leftovers as well as plants and insects and the occasional young animal. An opportunistic predator, he's almost always hungry, a potentially dangerous situation.
When are we gonna go back to Paris?
We're gonna go back to Paris.
13-year-old Kelly McConnell and his mother, Patty, are moving from Texas to Alaska to start a new life. They're breaking the long trip with a well-earned rest.
We're just gonna relax after a long day of driving. We just wanted to go to the hot springs itself and relax.
Even though they know there are bears in the area, Kelly and his mother decide to explore the park.
And I actually did comment at that time, I wish that I could see one. And then my mother corrected me and told me that I did not wish I would see one.
But Kelly and his mother have no idea of the danger they're in.
It's so rare. Are going to
The bear can smell prey, and it's closing in on them.
A predaceous attack, by and large, is a slow approach toward you, constant following of you, if you like, waiting for its tactical advantage to come in and get on you.
Hey, you know what? It's getting late. Come on, let's go. Kelly, come on.
Patty and Kelly have walked into a death trap. Frozen with fear, she has no idea what to do.
Kelly,
All right, Mom.
there's a bear.
Yeah, right, Mom. I didn't believe what she was saying. She's always fooling around, and I didn't know what to believe.
Kelly. Kelly.
But it's no joke.
Don't move.
If it's not making any noise, if it's not making a commotion, and it starts coming at you, this bear's in a predatory mode, and you've got to start thinking about what can I do to defend myself.
The 400-pound beast viciously attacks Patty. Both she and Kelly are staring death in the face. This bear could rip them apart in seconds. In a nature park in British Columbia, 13-year-old Kelly McConnell has put his life on the line to save his mother from the jaws of a bear.
And I was screaming for help, and there was no one around. I felt so helpless.
A bloodthirsty beast tears into Patty.
It was trying to eat my mother.
Bears don't always completely kill their prey before eating it. They'll just start eating it. And they do that with big game animals, and it's pretty well known that they do it with people too.
Kelly desperately tries to save his mother. But then, in a heartbeat, the bear turns on him.
I can just remember thinking, I hope that I saved my mother's life, but I remember thinking it was all a nightmare.
Kelly has become the beast's next meal. The bear locks its powerful jaws around his waist and lifts him off the ground.
I could feel the bones crunching in my body like I was pretty sure I was gonna die.
Kelly's about to pass out, but suddenly the animal drops him. He falls on his front, keeping his vital organs safe from the bear's teeth and claws.
It just began mauling me from the backside. It would just bite into my back and just tear my skin. It was eating me.
Kelly and his mom are so far from the hot springs, there's a danger no one will hear their screams. But one man does. Ray Kitchen, a truck driver, races to the scene and heroically takes on the man-eater himself.
This is an animal that's obsessively hungry, if not starving to death, and it may see other people that interfere as trying to take the carcass away from them.
The bear's reaction is explosive. It turns on Kitchen and begins to eat him alive.
Bears sometimes go into what they call surplus killing. They get into a herd of sheep, and it's so easy to kill them, they just knock them over left and right, way more than they're ever going to be able to eat.
Kelly is too badly wounded to do anything to help. Kitchen is pinned beneath the raging animal. He can do nothing to stop it ripping him to pieces. Tony Dowk, a trucker from Alberta, hears Kitchen screaming and comes to help.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The bear was on Ray Kitchen, mauling him to death. And it stared at me. I was looking at it straight in the eyes. And I hit him dead square in the eyes. And its claws come up and just missed me because I jumped back.
Tony is lucky the bear doesn't go after him. Instead, it finally kills Ray Kitchen.
I heard Ray scream his last few, or try to scream, the last few thought or sounds that his voice could make. And I screamed, oh my God, and that was it.
Ray's throat has been ripped open.
They're getting the neck because they're going for the windpipe and for the vertebrae.
Kelly's wounds are so bad, he can't move. Patty is alive, but very weak.
She told me that I should take care of my sisters. And And then she told me she loved me.
Patty loses consciousness. Other people are drawn by the shouts. They desperately try to keep the furious bear away from Kelly and his mom. Paramedic Ingrid Bailey joins the frantic rescue effort.
Mr. Kitchen was just flat out on the ground, missing a big chunk of his neck. And at that point, I stopped trying to do anything for Mr. Kitchen and went over and aided the other two folks who had already been attacked.
Ingrid does what she can, even though she could be next.
You gotta put pressure on those wounds.
The bear is only a few feet away. It could strike at any moment.
We need a breaker! Breaker, go.
The only way to end the carnage is by killing the bear.
Keep putting pressure on that wound.
But this vicious predator is not done yet with its bloody rampage. It has the taste for human flesh and wants more. A black bear has savagely attacked Patty and Kelly McConnell and killed the man who tried to help them. Now the bloodthirsty bear is on the rampage and heading towards the hot springs. There's panic. But running bodies trigger the bear's killer instinct.
The attraction of moving prey overrides the feeding. They'll feed later.
The massacre won't end until someone kills the crazed beast. Ingrid Bailey is still trying to revive Patty when the bear attacks another victim.
He caught up with a group of college students, and the last student in line slipped on the boardwalk, which was a little damp from a light rain, and the bear caught up with that person and mauled him as well.
Finally, someone arrives with a gun. The bear is shot dead.
Lots of pressure. He's losing a lot of blood.
But it's too late for Patty McConnell. She dies of her horrific injuries. Her 13-year-old son, Kelly, just manages to pull through.
Both my lungs were punctured. They said there was over 100 centimeters of stitches. I had suffered a few broken ribs. 3 of my vertebrae were broken.
An attack like this is very rare. 2 people are dead and 2 seriously injured. But incredibly, Kelly doesn't hate the animal that took his mother's life.
I feel like the bear, it didn't try to do anything that wasn't normal for it to do. I mean, normally bears don't attack people, and then probably had no choice but to attack or else die from starvation itself.
The horrific events at Liard Park show just how helpless we are when these predators turn on us. Without a gun, the death toll could have been much higher. Killing a bear in full attack mode is difficult, even with modern weapons. Back in the 1800s, it was much harder. As Michigan hunter and trapper Franklin Devereaux found out in 1883 when he tried to shoot a grizzly. In the time it took to reload his gun, the enraged bear charged and killed him.
Placing a headshot, unless the bear is immobile, is just about impossible. The skull is very hard. With a hammer, you'd have trouble breaking it.
In those days, bears were often only injured, and a wounded bear is extremely dangerous. It will stop at nothing to kill its attacker. The invention of the repeating rifle finally gave man the upper hand.
When we went from single-shot muskets to lever-action repeating rifles, that was a huge blow to grizzly bears. And it was both a combination of firepower, how fast you could shoot, and also the power of the weapon.
Hunting bears became a popular sport. They were killed in the thousands. Grizzly bear numbers plummeted, and today they are protected by law. But as more hunters and hikers venture into the last remaining wilderness, violent encounters still happen. And when an angry bear attacks, even a modern weapon may not save you. In the summer of 2001, Pastor Johnny McCoy found a gun wasn't enough to protect him from a furious grizzly, determined to see him dead.
And she was literally just trying to break my skull.
Pastor Johnny McCoy and church deacon Gary Coral are old friends who've been hunting together for years. They're on a 2-week hunting trip in the Alaskan wilderness.
We was going moose hunting to have the meat for the winter, or for the following year. That's what we eat. That's the food for the family.
They are well aware of the dangers lurking in the woods. While tracking their prey, they soon notice signs of grizzlies.
Makes me absolutely nervous walking through the woods, knowing that there are bear there, knowing that we are in their territory.
Wait, nearby? Yeah, you're probably not. Keep my eyes open. Okay.
This scat belongs to a female grizzly. She has cubs nearby. McCoy and Coral trek further into the bear's territory. Unlike hikers, they make as little noise as possible.
Hunters are probably more prone to bump into bears than other people because they're moving quietly.
Catch up to you. All right, I'll be up ahead. Okay.
McCoy takes a break. Coral presses on. Alone, he's much more likely to be attacked. Coral is walking quietly. The grizzly won't see or hear him until it's too late.
It was probably just out there with its cubs. All of a sudden, here's these people. So to Ma Grizzly, you see that as a threat.
McCoy, meanwhile, hurries to catch up with Coral. Suddenly, something tears out of the trees. It's racing towards Coral.
She ran right out within 10 feet in front of me. In my mind, I said, it's a bear.
McCoy can't shoot. He could hit Coral. By the time his friend hears a grizzly, it's too late.
And as I turned my head and looked around, all I could see was the mouth of a bear, and it was wide open. I just thought that the bear's gonna kill me. Today I'm gonna go be with the Lord.
At first, Coral's backpack shields him from the deadly claws.
The bear was just trying to get the pack out of the way to get it done.
I'm thinking my buddy is, you know, my best friend is going to be killed. So I'm saying, God, what do I do?
But Coral doesn't panic. Incredibly, he pulls his gun out from under him and points it blindly over his shoulder.
It wasn't an easy thing to do. I squeezed the trigger and boom. It was instant relief.
But a second later, Coral hears a terrifying scream. Church Deacon Gary Coral has been attacked by a grizzly. He shot the bear, making it let go. Now the enraged beast turns on Coral's hunting buddy, Johnny McCoy.
When bears are injured during an attack, it seems that pain is a stimulus to attack harder.
McCoy reacts with lightning speed.
And I just took my gun, I thought, oh my goodness, and shoved it in her mouth.
The grizzly bites down.
When I shoved that gun in her mouth and pulled the trigger, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then she just swatted out of the way.
The grizzly leaps on McCoy with a vengeance, biting deep into his arm and shoulder.
And I've never heard any more agonizing screams of horror than the screams that I heard him put out.
And first thing that she did was to bite and break my arms in 9 places.
A grizzly's jaws can exert over 750 pounds of force. It's like being hit by a sledgehammer. Coral can't shoot in case he hits McCoy. He can only watch as the bear tears his friend apart.
I could hear the bones crunching. I could actually hear them breaking. I seemed to even be able to hear the flesh being ripped off of these bones.
McCoy can't fight anymore. His arms are badly mauled. The grizzly now lunges for his head, the death blow.
And all I could smell was her breath. It was the most awful stench I've ever smelled in my life. And I thought, okay, you know, God, this is it. You know, Lord, I'm ready. This is it. And I just quit. I just quit.
McCoy's body goes limp.
And the bear turned around and looked at me.
Suddenly, the bear runs off.
I think in about 1 second, he must have covered 100 yards. He was clear out of sight. I never fired a shot. It was so quick.
McCoy is in bad shape.
I'd already resigned the fact that I was not going to make it. I could have bled to death.
Johnny!
Both his arms are badly injured. His scalp is shredded. His ear is torn off. One eye hangs from its socket.
Talk to me. Talk to me.
Coral must act quickly to save his friend.
Well, we had lots of game sacks. So I took the game sacks and put his scalp back on as good as I could and put his eyeball back in his head and stuffed his ear up in there and tied the game sacks on him. And when I got done, I looked at him and I thought, oh my, I thought, how am I ever going to get him to stand up?
McCoy can't see anything, and they've left their cell phone back at the camp. It takes the injured hunters 3 hours to get there. Eventually, they are airlifted to the hospital.
Emotionally, I'm still dealing with that. It's tough. If I'm under a lot of stress, my wife has to wake me up because I'm fighting with a bear all over again.
I woke up a few times at night thinking about that bear on my back. With the bear tearing him apart, and the bones crunching, sure, you don't ever forget that.
The grizzly bear was later found dead of the single gunshot wound. Thousands of people encounter bears every year, but attacks are unusual.
It's most likely one of two causes. One, it's a predatory incident, and that happens with both black bears and grizzly bears. And then the second thing is defense of personal space.
When bears do strike, it can have a profound and lasting effect on those who are lucky enough to survive.
In the blink of an instant, your life can completely be changed without you having any say in what happens. So you should just go out and live every day like it's your last day, because it might be. You just never know.
We were all gonna die. I knew I'd be bitten. Panic, fear, terror. You're scared.
It was so completely overpowering. He just ripped my face off. I told myself I'd rather die.
It's everyone's worst nightmare, being eaten alive by a wild animal. In this episode, 3 remarkable stories of people who've been savaged by distant cousins of man's best friend. What's it like to become human On a canoeing holiday in the Canadian wilderness, the Delventhal family was savagely attacked by a lone wolf.
There was nothing we could do to stop a wolf that wanted to eat us.
Algonquin Park, Ontario. A vast landscape of forests, lakes, and rivers. A popular destination for hikers and nature lovers. And home to predators, including the eastern wolf.
The conventional wisdom in North America is that wolves are basically harmless. But it became crystal clear that there were circumstances under which the wolves would be dangerous.
This adult wolf has been expelled from his pack. Forced to fend for himself, he's become an opportunistic predator, scavenging kills and raiding campsites. And he's starting to lose his natural fear of people.
That's it, just keep paddling straight on in. How you doing, guys? Yeah, just follow me in.
The Delventhal family is near the end of a 9-day canoe trip to some of the park's most remote areas.
All right, then.
We wanted to get away from people, get away from human contact, really get as much as possible into nature to appreciate it as a family.
Yeah, dig right in there.
It had been one of the best trips, probably one of the high points of our lives together as a family.
As the day ends, the Delventhals look for a place to set up camp.
Hey, Tracy, how about right over here? The perfect spot, isn't it? Great job, guys.
They're unaware that something else has also picked this site.
We got ourselves a camp set up, fire going.
The wolf gravitated to the campsite because that was a place where in the past it may have smelled food, experienced food.
Although both parents just want to kick back and relax, their older boys have plans of their own.
We wanted to go out on the water and see the sunset. And our parents had very strict rule that me and my brother Eli were not allowed out in the canoes without one of them in the canoe. So we needed to convince one of our parents to go out with us.
What do you say, Mom?
We're gonna stay here and make dinner, and you boys go ahead.
Tom and his two older sons set off in the canoe. He has no idea a hungry wolf may now be sizing up their little brother.
About 80% of the attacks are aimed at children. And children are being taken while they are still struggling and screaming and are being carried off.
As Tom and his boys paddle further away from their campsite, they bump into other canoeists who tell them about an old Algonquin Park tradition.
You ready? Let's do it.
The wolf call.
We sort of bunched all the canoes together and started howling, you know, more or less in unison, doing our best to sound like wolves.
When you howl, you let the pack know that you are another wolf and you're encroaching on its territory.
The lone wolf closes in, possibly worried that rivals may attempt to steal his tempting evening meal.
The forest around the site was really thick. You couldn't see into the forest at all. And I heard something and just saw the side of something.
Tom arrives back with his older sons. The wolf is likely scared away for now.
All right, boys, time for bed. We got a long day tomorrow.
It's been such a perfect evening that Tom and Tracy decide not to pitch the tents. The Delventhals will sleep under the stars. But sleeping outside makes the family vulnerable.
My mom put Willem, who was only 3, in between me and Eli, you know, who were considerably larger than him. Me, Willem, and Eli were down in our own little group.
And I am going to sleep like a log.
Tom and I were lying out under the stars and agreed that it was the most peaceful, grounded, safe that we've ever felt in our lives. And talked about how blessed we were, that this was a glorious place.
There is something quite wonderful about lying down and seeing the stars, but I was 12 and I was a little bit more scared of the world and scared of the dark.
The ravenous wolf bides his time. He waits until the family is still. His sights are firmly set on the children.
I was dreaming that I was walking through the woods with my parents, and it was sunny, and we were just sort of walking and talking.
Finally, the wolf makes his move. He zeroes in on the most accessible prey, Zach.
While I was dreaming, there was definitely a sensation of pressure on my face.
The wolf, as a killing machine, is extremely powerful. They really slice through tissues and meat and muscles and tendons. It's very severe.
Incredibly, Zach keeps on sleeping.
And it felt like I was being dragged. Felt like I was sort of strapped to the front of a jet. Everything started rushing by really, really quickly, and that was the point when I woke up.
Startled, the wolf runs back into the forest.
It was one long, ripping scream. It was blood-curdling.
Zach, what's wrong? What's wrong? What is it?
He kept saying, something bit me.
What happened? Something bit you?
But they still have no idea what bit him.
It was at that point that my thermals were getting wet and warm. And he started saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And so I realized that he was bleeding profusely from the face.
I sat there trying to gather myself, and I looked through the darkness to where they were huddled together, and then I saw the wolf.
Yeah! Yeah! Go on!
I was being as big as I could be and as loud as I could be. I had to get it away from my wife and child.
He ran right past us, and we could hear it running into the woods and whacking trees and bushes and stuff. And I was trying to hold Zach and figure out what was going on.
The animal retreats.
The wolf!
I immediately started panicking. Could kill the whole family.
I kept just pulling him down and whispering, "You have to stay calm. We have to stay calm. We have to stay quiet. We have to know where it is."
But with only a flashlight, the family has no idea where the wolf is hiding, whether it's vanished or simply biding its time.
Wolves have a marvelous tapetum lucidum, which is the technical name for a membrane in the back of the eye which reflects light. And so wolves can see at night much better than we can.
The wolf is probably watching the family's every move. He'll choose the best moment to resume his attack.
I thought we were all gonna die. I thought that there was nothing we could do to stop a wolf that wanted to eat us.
On a canoeing trip to Algonquin Park, Ontario, the Delventhal family has fought off a savage attack by a lone wolf.
Go on!
They're terrified and will strike again.
First thing I found was my paddle. It was the biggest of all of the paddles. And I went back to where he had disappeared and stood there for about half a minute until I was satisfied that he was gone.
My dad came up in front of me and shone the light in my face.
Let me see.
The first thing I saw was the terror and the fear in his eyes. And I could see that his cheek was totally torn through. I just kind of stopped and said, "Oh my God."
I mean, it was slow, and it was horrified and hopeless. And it was all there, and the oh my God, and the look on his face. And I knew it was worse than I thought it was.
Again, the hungry wolf emerges from the forest. Now he moves in for the kill.
And my dad turned and charged it and followed it out into the woods.
It was really scary, but I was gonna beat him. I was gonna destroy it.
Go on! Get out of here!
The trees wrapped around him, and he was gone. He disappeared.
Tom, come on!
I thought if he doesn't come back, how am I gonna protect these kids on my own?
My immediate thought was that I wasn't going to see him again.
It was the darkest night I can ever remember, but all of my senses were really, really sharpened, and I felt like I could see exactly where he was.
Armed with his makeshift weapon, Tom now has the upper hand.
Wolves, in all their killing activities, have to respect one thing. They're basically hypochondriacs. Safety for them is paramount.
Self-preservation wins over hunger. The animal retreats, for now. Seizing the moment, the Delventhals make their escape.
Hold that on there. All right, you gotta get out of here. Up we go. Here we go. Down here, let me talk to you. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Hey, Will, Eli, you guys all right? Let's go, baby. Let's go. Tracy, let's go. Zach, hold on.
There was this moment of pushing off the site, and then I remember just going, because I knew at least the wolf couldn't get us now.
The family may have escaped the wolf's jaws, but Zach is still in terrible danger. He's losing blood fast.
Hold on, Stein.
I thought about dying, so I just sort of peacefully lying in the boat and figured I could slip away now and it would be easy. What changed my thinking was thinking about my family and thinking about how much they would all miss me.
I was very aware that he might have lost a lot of blood, and that there was a lot further to go. We couldn't find our way out, and that was just feeling like incredible powerlessness on my part. I was really angry at myself, frustrated with myself, and frustrated with the situation.
After 3 long hours, the family sees a glimmer of light. They arrive at a lodge, but the hospital is still another 4 hours away. Zach undergoes 4 hours of emergency surgery. His nose is broken in 5 places, and it takes over 80 stitches to repair his badly lacerated face.
Sheer luck that the wolf didn't grab part of the neck. With the tremendous bite force of the wolf, Zach would not have survived that. I'm very lucky.
They took Zachariah into a triage room, and it was that moment. It was the first time that I looked at him, because I thought, okay, now we're safe, and I can see. And his face was just ripped apart.
Even after the doctor had Zach and was doing what he could to put Zach's face back together again, the reaction was, well, it couldn't have been a wolf. And they treated me very much like I was hallucinating, or just a stupid geek from the city, or, you know, somebody who just didn't understand, obviously, because wolves don't do that.
The scars themselves really aren't that visible.
The psychological trauma leads to months of severe panic attacks.
The therapist said, what happened is deep and primal, because you're supposed to be safe when you're asleep. He didn't know it was coming. None of us knew it was coming.
Park rangers decide the lone wolf poses a serious threat to other campers. 5 days after the attack, they find the animal they believe terrorized the Delventhals and But Zach doesn't blame the wolf for what happened.
I'm not really any more or less afraid of wolves than I was before. And I have great respect for them and great admiration for them. But they're always potentially dangerous.
Throughout history, wolf attacks have been the stuff of nightmare and legend. No ordinary creatures. In mythology, they often represented evil, even the Antichrist. Not even death could safeguard people from the wolf's jaws. In 16th century Scotland, bodies were often buried on islands to stop wolves digging them up and eating them. No European settlement, it seemed, was safe. In 1879, in a village in southern Finland, a pair of wolves went on a bloody rampage. As many as 35 children were killed. Eventually, the Finnish army was called in, but the wolves proved elusive. It took 2 long years to halt their terrifying reign. The female wolf was shot dead. The alpha male poisoned. By hunting in packs, wolves are highly efficient killers. Sometimes not even a gun will stop them dead. A woodsman living in Springfield, Missouri in the early 1900s learned this the hard way. Ambushed by a furious wolf pack, he fought a heroic battle for his life, but overpowered before he could reload his rifle. He was later found ripped apart, surrounded by 5 dead wolves. Ever since the first white settlers arrived in North America, wolves have been relentlessly hunted and killed. But in their place, their canine cousin, the coyote, has flourished. Increasingly, the ever-adaptable coyote has moved into urban areas. And increasingly, humans come face to face with them. One afternoon in his yard, Jimmy Hawthorne ran into a wild coyote. A coyote with rabies.
I couldn't believe what was happening. I knew I'd be bitten. It was scary.
This coyote has lost all sense of reality. He's suffering from rabies. The disease in his brain has eradicated any fear of people. All he wants to do is attack.
Most likely the coyote encountered a rabid raccoon. They tangled and the raccoon bit the coyote.
The rabid animal has left his natural habitat behind. He's now in the residential neighborhood of Lenaxa, Virginia, and is a deadly threat to anyone who crosses his path. 47-year-old Jimmy Hawthorne is working in his yard on a lazy Sunday afternoon. His wife is inside, taking a nap.
It was a normal day. I was actually using the lawnmower to blow the leaves off the yard.
Jimmy is completely unaware that he's being watched.
I probably see coyotes once a month, and then when they see you, they're gone. They're scared of humans.
But not this coyote. Driven by the lethal virus, he's desperate to bite anything or anyone.
Rabies virus infection is transmitted in the saliva and often deposited in skin, subcutaneous tissues, or muscle, and then eventually spreads along nerves to the central nervous system.
The diseased coyote closes in on Jimmy.
I was just sort of in my own little world, riding on a piece of equipment, and it startled me. I mean, my first thought was it was a German Shepherd. And then I looked and I said, oh my goodness, it's a coyote.
Horrified, Jimmy realizes this coyote is Rabid.
At that point, it was just terror, scary.
Rabies is almost always fatal if not treated immediately.
Well, there have only been 6 survivors of rabies. We don't fully understand why the outcome is always fatal, but clearly the immune response isn't sufficient to clear the viral infection.
It was driving the mole as fast as it would go. The coyote was having no trouble keeping up. The coyote kept circling the mole.
Fueled by a wave of aggression, the coyote seizes opportunity and strikes.
He bit my boot. I felt him bite the boot. I mean, I couldn't believe what was happening. I just remembered that moment of fear, of terror. It was scary.
Luckily, the coyote's bite doesn't pierce Jimmy's thick leather boot. Jimmy needs to make it home before it does. But then, his mower runs out of gas and stops dead.
My thoughts were, oh my goodness, something scares you to death. And then it's like you have to take care of yourself, protect yourself.
Jimmy must either risk running for his life or taking on the rabid animal.
This animal might weigh 50 pounds, and I weigh 240. If it gets bad enough, you know, I'll just tear him apart with my hand. But I knew I'd be bitten. You don't see animals come up to you. I mean, I've been in the woods my whole life. Deer don't walk up to you. Rabbits don't walk up to you. This animal had no fear of man. He would come around the tractor. You know, I didn't want him to bite me on the back of my leg, and I just turned around and faced him, and he came at me, and I kicked him. That's when he sort of hollered, yipped, and went into the thicket.
Because of his swelling brain, the rabid coyote is suffering terrible headaches. Jimmy's kick further disorients him. Jimmy's bought some time. But only a little.
I looked around and found a big stick about 8 foot long. And I said, well, I can use this to keep him off of it. And he was aggressive, extremely aggressive. Coyotes, canine teeth, are so much longer than, say, a Doberman. They're prepared to hunt and kill.
Wielding the stick, Jimmy scores a direct hit to the coyote's head. The crazed animal retreats, for now. Jimmy races for the house, but the door is locked. His wife still asleep. And the rabid coyote isn't yet done with Jimmy.
I'm knocking on the door, and then I see him running across the front yard, coming back.
The ever more aggressive coyote closes in for the kill. While mowing his lawn one Sunday afternoon, Virginian Jimmy Hawthorne is fought off an attack by a rabid coyote. Locked out of his house, Jimmy's now trapped by the deadly animal. A rabies victim suffers agonizing spasms in the throat, making it almost impossible to swallow. they develop neurological impairment and paralysis, finally progressing to coma, then death. Jimmy pounds on the door one last time to wake up his wife.
And thank goodness she got the door open. And I went in and I told her there's a rabid coyote out there. And I was looking for a gun.
The coyote refuses to give up. The rabies has infused him with blind courage. All he knows is he needs to bite. Jimmy has to end the battle, now.
In the initial stages, it's panic, fear, terror.
Honey, you stay inside.
You're scared. And then that went away. It goes from fear to aggression. It almost makes you angry.
Leaving the sanctuary of home, Jimmy goes in search of the deranged animal. But this time, he's prepared.
Just a reflex action, I shot him. I killed him.
When the animal is tested, experts confirm the rabies virus. Thankfully, Jimmy is healthy, but the psychological trauma remains.
When I'd go to bed, I'd close my eyes and I would see the coyote coming at me.
Now, when doing the gardening, Jimmy and his wife are always on guard, just in case.
When the news originally did the story, when it happened, they said, how do you feel about that? And I said, well, you know, I would have rather been a lottery winner. So it was amazing to me how everything is nice. You're at home, it's a Sunday, you're working on your property, everything's calm, and then everything turns into chaos. It's scary, you know.
Rabies has terrified people for thousands of years. In the 16th century, a deadly epidemic swept across Europe. Stories of horrific attacks by mad animals foaming at the mouth entered popular folklore. Peasants in the countryside faced the greatest risk, but not even cities were safe. In 1450 in Paris, a pack of wolves, some probably rabid, created blind panic when they breached the city walls. 40 people were bitten and killed. The ferocious pack was lured into the heart of the city, close to Notre Dame Cathedral. There, a mob hell-bent on revenge stoned and speared the wolves to death. While the wolf and coyote have always posed a threat to humans in parts of North America, there's a much more dangerous animal at large. The powerful cougar, also known as a puma or mountain lion, is thought to have killed at least 18 people since records began. Aniela was almost one of them. While on a mountain bike ride with her friend, a cougar pounced and tried to snap her neck.
You think, this is just a nightmare. I told myself I'd rather die.
The rugged canyons of Whiting Ranch Wilderness Park are a big draw for thrill-seeking mountain bikers. But here, taking a tumble is not the only hazard. The park is home to some spectacular and dangerous wildlife, including the feared cougar.
California Fish and Game gives a range of population from 4,000 to 6,000 cougars in California.
This 110-pound male cougar works alone.
They're very good at being top predators and surviving in the landscape. Their quickness, their agility, their smoothness of movement, they're just good at that.
The cougar has just taken a fresh kill.
They will immediately take them off into the brush, and that gives them cover and allows them to feed in peace. One cougar will have a territory of roughly 30 to 50 or more square miles.
The big cat buries what he doesn't eat for another time. He'll attack anything that threatens his food cache.
Always the slowpoke.
Even humans. Aniela, a personal trainer and ex-Marine, and her friend Deb Nichols meet up for a biking excursion. They choose Cactus Hill Trail because of its exciting twists and turns.
Ann and I got together because we have common riding styles. We tend to just like to ride hard and not talk a lot. I tend to take up sports where there's usually some rough play.
You have to be willing to get dirty, have to be willing to, get cuts and scrapes and maybe some poison oak along the way. But I love it for the adventure.
But today, Cactus Hill Trail will take them on a journey they won't soon forget. Ann and Debbie are heading straight into a death trap.
We were just kind of, coming into the downhill section. You're gonna finish the ride soon. All the climbing is done. And our goal was to make it out before it got dark.
The cougar jealously guards its precious food.
Mountain lions don't move very far from their kills. Once they've cached the kill, they tend to stay relatively nearby.
Just up the trail, another cyclist discovers an abandoned bicycle. Hello? He has no idea who it belongs to.
As I was first turning down that trail, Cactus Trail, when I came around one of the blind corners, we actually saw a man standing with his bike and then the second bike with no person. And my instinct was that they had stopped and that his friend was going to the bathroom. So honestly, I didn't really take it very seriously.
The cougar's heightened sense of hearing picks up the noisy cyclists. They're invading his territory. Debbie falls behind. The distance between them has made both more vulnerable. Thinking his food cache is threatened, the mountain lion moves into attack mode.
As I was moving down the trail, what caught my attention was I saw a flash of movement. I saw kind of a reddish-brown fur. Initially thought that I had startled a deer. And then the impact.
The cougar can leap a great distance in the realm of 20 to 30 feet and will jump on their back and bite the back of the neck.
The only thing I can liken it to would be if you're riding your bike and you got hit by a car from behind. That's what it felt like to me. I mean, the impact was unbelievable. I was face down, and he was trying to bite at the back of my neck. And I knew, okay, this isn't a deer.
A lion's impetus is to kill as quickly and as efficiently as possible because that reduces its own energy expenditure and its own chance of harm.
I just couldn't believe that had just happened to me. I mean, this is just a nightmare. This can't really be happening. You can't wrap your brain around it.
Anne's helmet protects her for now. But the cougar is determined to win this battle.
If they don't kill with the first bite, they may move their bite gradually around to the front of the throat and take the prey down by asphyxiation.
You know, it was like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. It was so completely overpowering. I could feel it actually hanging on to my shoulders. The lion's claws were dug into each of my shoulders, and he was trying to bite at the back of my neck. He was able to manipulate and move me around, release his grip and grab on again and just drag me.
I could hear Anne's cry, screaming, and it sounded unusual. It sounded like a siren over and over, and then just within an instant, I came around the corner and saw the mountain lion.
Debbie needs to think fast. In sheer desperation, she tries to scare the animal away.
He didn't even flinch.
They're very focused predators. They don't get distracted easily. They have to finish what they start.
Risking her own life, Debbie does the only thing she can think of.
When I grabbed her leg, I thought, it was going to be something that would, alarm him at least, but it didn't. It didn't seem to faze him.
All it would have taken is one swipe from that lion to take Debbie out. And she put herself in that situation where that was a very strong possibility.
And I had a death grip on her calf area. I was just amazed at his strength.
I just remember watching her face and watching her hanging onto my leg and screaming at the top of her lungs.
Debbie's frantic attempts aren't working. She can't pry her friend loose.
I was very aware that he just basically ripped my face off.
An adult male cougar's powerful jaws are comprised of 30 razor-sharp teeth. Measuring as long as 2 inches, these massive canines are used to deliver a lethal bite. The other teeth are specialized in slicing and shearing flesh.
They're able to crush leg bones, femurs, large bones, and commonly eat the entire skull. They're very, very strong.
Anne is fighting a highly motivated killer and losing.
To be honest, that was the only time. It was for a split second, but I basically told myself I'd rather die.
I don't remember anything but his tail smacking in his eyes and thinking, I'm so close and I'm screaming so loud, why don't you let go of her face?
A group of cyclists up the trail hear Debbie scream. They arrive with Anne's life hanging by a thread.
I can't hold her much longer. I kept repeating that. I can't hold her much longer.
One of the cyclists calls for help as the others join in the fight. But it's almost too late. The animal's large canines sink into Anne's throat.
Once he locked down, things started to go black. I started kind of seeing stars. And I knew that was going to be the end.
Aniela is now on the edge of death, and her friend is powerless to help. Aniela has been savagely attacked by a cougar in a California national park. Her best friend and two passing cyclists struggle to save her before it's too late.
Dear God, please give me the strength to hold on to her. He's eventually gonna let go.
But the cougar is determined to finish the job.
Their focus is intense, even to the point of ignoring a certain amount of negative stimuli, rocks and sticks and things like that. They're very focused, but they do recognize that they're getting hit, and at some point, they potentially will give up.
One of the rocks finally hits its mark. The cougar relents and lets go. The attack may be over, but Anne's struggle to survive isn't. She needs medical attention urgently.
Stay down. Stay down. Give me a short.
When I came to, I was lying on my back at that point, and I felt as though I was drowning. And we realized that it was blood.
Come on.
Debbie is also fearful the cougar may want to finish what he started.
Hold her next to her.
Immediately thought, I just want to get out of this area. I felt very uneasy that he probably hadn't left, but that, he was close by.
They don't get rewarded by giving up easily. All of their evolutionary history dictates that once they start, they have to stick with it.
The paramedics arrive at the scene, but they fear she may not make it to the hospital in time.
My neck hurt so bad. Just every muscle was just torn. That's what it felt like. It was so painful to even try to lift my head an inch.
And I just said to her, Anne, you're gonna make it. You're gonna be fine.
It's gonna be okay.
The cougar stays in the area, still protecting his food cache, while Anne is airlifted to the hospital. Surgeons tell Anne that the cougar's bites were millimeters away from ending her life.
My plastic surgeon told me he found 40 bite wounds to my neck alone, and then I had obviously severe wounds to my face. It wasn't going to be a quick fix. This is not like one surgery, I'm back to normal. And then I realized I'm not ever going to be back to normal.
Later that evening, park rangers locate the owner of the abandoned bicycle. He had been making his way down Cactus Hill Trail when his chain came off. Unaware, he was being watched. The animal struck with deadly force. The cougar likely snapped his victim's spinal cord in one bite.
Gosh, I can't believe that I'm still here. It kind of helped me to be so thankful that I was still alive, to realize that here this adult man had been killed, and I made it.
A team of park rangers has no choice but to track the man-eater. He's shot dead not 50 yards from his first kill. Unwilling until death to give it up.
I think they're gorgeous animals. I have a lot of respect for what they're capable of, appreciating that they need their space too. An experience like this obviously makes you appreciate your friends. Debbie, specifically, she risked her own life. That's true friendship.
Their domestic cousins may be household pets, but in the wild, hunger or disease can occasionally drive these animals to target human prey. These people all came face to face with some of North America's most feared killer cats and dogs. They were lucky to survive.
We were aware that there's mountain lions, but I just would have never thought that they would turn on me.